Back again. Back again, and I'm behind. We had to be somewhere first thing this morning. So it's put me behind doing this for a little bit and a bunch of other things. It's put me be behind, but I'm here with Adventure Attack Dog in her corner. It's kind of funny. Last night I attempted to videotape our evening wrestle, which is every single night. Every single night. She'll come over to me wherever I am and stand there looking at me, and then she'll go, Arr. Put my arm or my hand in her mouth, and then I'll move my hand and she'll jerk real fast. I'm like, oh, she wants to play again. All right, here we go. Let's do this. I wanted to hopefully get the look on her face and the sound that comes out of her. This is quite intimidating. On a note, so, I've always wanted a dog, and I would never have got a dog unless I had an acreage like I do now. I just wouldn't. I had lots of dogs in my life. I loved a lot of dogs. Had dogs in my guide camp and stuff. And it's the first time I've actually had a dog to say it was my own. But the predominant reason why I got this dog was to keep this place safe when I'm not here. And it's funny how the breed of dogs, dogs are bred to be guard dogs, dogs are bred to be pointers, retrievers. It's amazing for me, not being a lifelong dog owner, to watch a dog move on the knowledge it's had passed on through its DNA. That's cool for me to watch. And Ruby, she was basically, when she was born, she was outside on a rural ranch in minus whatever degree temperatures it was, and all the little pups would bolt underneath the front porch of this cabin they're scared from vehicles driving up or whatever. And when I first brought her home, she was doing the same thing. She'd run under the back porch. I'm like, uh-oh. I wonder if this dog's even going to do what hopefully she's going to do later in life when she gets bigger, right? And then she passed her test yesterday. Well, she passed the test with the Bears this year, but now she really passed the test yesterday, because I mentioned earlier, Sarah mentioned when she goes on her walks, okay, they smelled that bad smell, and she had her tail between her legs pulling her to not go in there, down that road through that forest. And she said that when she comes upon other people walking the dogs or whatever around there, that Ruby will automatically go in front of her legs and push up against her, stay between her and the person. I'm like, that's interesting for me to hear. I'm thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. Guess she gets it. That's pretty cool. Well, yesterday, there's some man, there's an older man with a dog coming down the trail towards them, and the man's dog was off of the leash, running all over the place, and the guy was trying to chase it down. And the dog was coming up to Sarah and Ruby, and Sarah yelled out, "You want me to grab your dog?" And he's like, "Yeah, please." So she had Ruby beside her, and his dog on her left, and when the man came up and to kind of quickly reach down to his dog right beside Sarah, Ruby went, "Roar!" She said it was the lowest, scariest bark, and the man jumped back. "Ah!" And Ruby didn't want him coming near Mom. So, yay, good news. No, she didn't bite him, but she was on guard protecting Sarah without being trained professionally to be a guard dog. So that was good news. Loved hearing that. So did Sarah. She feels good with her Ruby at her side. So that's a good thing. I'll tell you what, man, I would not want, after fighting with her every night, and she's got bigger this last hunting trip one. She's starting to get thicker and deeper in the chest, and the noises coming out of her and the teeth, and I would not want her angry for real. Just wouldn't. And wait till she gets full size. Her mother was a frickin' monster. One day I'll post out a picture of that. She's going to be, well, she's 100 now. I'm guessing she'll be 160 or something. Anyway, let's get into the inbox. Let's get some other voices, some important voices heard. Please answer a question is the title of this email. Hey Steve, you made a comment a few days ago. I'm guessing it may have been in regards to my first email I sent. You said, anyone that does Bigfoot expeditions is a fake. Let me read that sentence again. You said, anyone that does Bigfoot expeditions is a fake. No, I didn't say that. Never have said it. You're going to have to re-listen to whatever you heard those words. I've never said that sentence in my life. Can you please elaborate? If it's because these beings are dangerous, then it makes sense. No, what I've said before, and I say today, and I'll say tomorrow, is if you go out and sell Sasquatch Bigfoot expeditions, you're right up to frickin' lunch. At this stage of the game, with the knowledge that we know, anybody who thinks they can sell an expedition to take somebody to a Sasquatch is absolutely delusional, needs money bad, and they got no other game plan for income. They're a joke. I'll say that with absolute confidence. If you have looked into this subject for, I don't give a shit, what's the amount of time you'd need to figure it out? That we are absolutely outclassed. Absolutely outclassed. There isn't a human being on the face of the planet today that's going to guide you to go meet a Sasquatch anytime this week, today, this month, anytime. And I am a professional guide. I have been paid a lot of money over the years, for many years, from a lot of people who you've heard of and known of, for my hunting and tracking skills. If there's anybody who would qualify to sell an expedition to go look for something in the forest, is going to be a professional hunting guide. It would be my first choice. And believe me, I would not have any confidence in trying to dupe any of you out of your money to come into the woods for me to go on a Bigfoot expedition. No. Maybe years ago, if all you knew about was footprints and dermal ridges and tree breaks and shit, maybe thinking you're going to come across one of those elusive monkeys or gorillas, and you actually had yourself convinced you were going to, and you actually convinced yourself that you were real good at it, good enough, that you're going to charge money to go, charge people money to go in the woods. Up and making sense, I'm doing a little bit of a babble. I remember when I first started guiding for big game, I had already mastered my craft, but I was very insecure and I was terrified of not producing. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to do this. These people are paying so much money to do this. Oh my God, I hope I can find what they're looking for. I hope it works out. And it worked out. But I'll tell you what, the confidence that it takes for you to put yourself in the position of being paid to find wild game for somebody for their hard-earned money. You need confidence, you need a lot of experience and confidence you can do it. On that note, you show me somebody who's got the confidence and the knowledge to take your money, to take you on a Bigfoot expedition. Nope. Nope. You're desperate for money and you got no other way of making it, as far as I'm concerned. You are very challenged between the ears as the stage of the game. Now, that's what I said, all right? So, if anybody thinks I said, quote, anyone that does Bigfoot expeditions is a fake, I've never said that sentence in my life. If you charge people and sell expeditions to go on, yeah, all right, I've spoken enough on that topic. There you go, moving along. On another note of strangeness, I asked my pastor several years ago about my mythology and about mythology and UFO/aliens. He has been in the Word for over 50 years, has an extensive library on mythology and other topics. His exact words: Satan was given the power to rule over the earth and the air. That's including space, our atmosphere, and airwaves. It presents demonic deception. He said, all those creatures in mythology stemmed from the fallen aliens breeding with women. And here's where it gets interesting. The scriptures say it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at coming of the Son of Man. During the time before the flood, there were giants and all kinds of strange creatures. It grieved God he had ever created mankind, so he destroyed them all, except for Noah and his family, because evil was in the hearts of man continually. So, here we are now, and they didn't have internet and cell phones back then. Fast forward, the whole freaking world is one big shit show, and we have more and more sightings of strange creatures. Dogman? Question mark? I thought that was the most stupid thing I'd ever heard of until you mentioned a similar god that the Egyptians worshipped. Holy crap, it makes so much sense. I truly believe we're in the last days and nothing shocks me anymore. There are some dark forces at work, that's for darn sure. The global elites are a whole other topic. Thank you for your show. I love hearing about the nuclear scientists, any scientists and military for that matter. They have come out and shared about what they've uncovered. I keep glued in and tuned in, waiting to find your show about the rest of the DNA stuff, etc. Thanks again, Joey, Texas. Okay, Joey, thanks for sending that in, man. Thanks for the question, and you know that I am definitely not saying any disrespect for you, for your question or the sentence. And I love answering questions. And I will add in, I said this before in the past, but there's thousands of new people here nonstop. What do we got here? If you were legitimate, if you're legitimate, honest, and you had some kind of a business on the go, or a name in public, and some asshole like me went online and started saying things that possibly were having a negative impact on your name or on your business, and you're legitimate, a good, kind, legitimate, honest soul, you know what? You would be trying to get a hold of me as fast as you could to clear up this misunderstanding. Steve, what are you saying, man? We're on the same team. What are you doing? This is what I've been doing. This is how I do it. This is what I'm doing, and it's honest this and it's honest that. See what I mean? If you're a good, honest person, and you felt that I was having a negative impact on your character or on your income, you would be getting a hold of me one-on-one as fast as you could. Right? Common sense. Rational thinking. Now, out of all those dirt scumbags that I have been chipping away back at, and chipping at for other people, not one of those coward-ass, sleazebag douchebags have ever tried to get a hold of me. Never. There you go. Moving along. Okay, what do we got here? There's no title in this email. Dear Steve, no need to share my name. Here's a story a friend shared with me about his encounter. Because of this story, I became interested in all things Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and Sabe. I stumbled onto your How to Hunt site and have been fascinated by all the people's stories as you read them. Thank you for doing this, as it is a real outlet to get these often difficult recounts off our chests, so to speak. I think it is so hard for many because it is both fearful internally and can be embarrassing outwardly when our friends and family ridicules us for sharing. Anyway, my rant for the day, on to the story. This happened in a remote wooded area of northern Minnesota, about 35 miles west of Duluth. My friend is telling me all this several years ago. He said he was out taking a sauna after doing some summer haying and evening farm chores. The sauna was about 3/4 down from the farmhouse. I think we read this one. Yeah, we read that one not too long ago. Apologies, sorry. Don't know why it wasn't marked as read. No problem. There's a few other 1,000 more sitting right here. What's this one? Hopefully this hasn't been read. This is titled, It Was a Dark and Windy Night. Greetings, Steve. This is coming to you from the mid-southwestern desert, where I have a property in a rural area and have been here for 20 years. Born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. And truly am a desert rat by choice. So bizarre. I've been down through the desert. I couldn't imagine living in a desert myself. I'd shrivel up like a piece of bacon and die in the first week. Closest town is approximately 25 minutes away, and neighbors are not close, but area has built up over the last decade. I love your content, respect must be given to you for your flawless knowledge and your passion to uncover things hidden by our so-called leaders. I'm 65. Just last October. Amazed I made it this far. Aren't we all? Never thought I would. Me neither. I have an odd life. I wore a back brace in high school due to a twisty spine that had to have surgery right before I turned 21. So I'm no stranger to feeling less than because of how I looked and treated like a sad sack by peers. I took solace in books and learning everything I could. Got decent grades, but never really felt part of the pack. I made my own way, loved to laugh and talk to new people, and for the most part have had a most pleasant life. I've had and triumphed over cancer when I was 27. Had my beautiful daughter at 35. Over a decade of being told I'd never conceive normally. I have 3 great and wonderful grandkids, and 1 new one on the way. I'm very strong of spirit. I feel like I'm open-minded and always give people the benefit of the doubt. If someone tells me something fantastic happened to them, I get excited and encourage them to embrace their encounters. One of my favorite things about what you're doing is the sincerity and integrity you allow by giving everyone a safe place to share their encounters. Thank you for that. As an underdog myself, I salute you. Thank you for the kind words, and bravo for you persevering through all of your injuries and cancer. Now, to one of my strange but absolutely true things that happened to me here on the piece of heaven that is my property. I've had many, but this one night resurfaced very strongly as I've listened to all the encounters you've shared with the world. It was about 2 years ago, sometime in the hot summer months, and had been windy as hell all day going into the night. It was a near constant wind, at least 30-mile-per-hour winds if I had to guess, gusting occasionally upwards to 50, 60 miles per hour. When that would happen, I could hear something bang loudly on my very high flat roof right above the room I was sitting watching TV in the dark. It sounded like something large was jumping around just overhead. Then it would stop. It was about 3 a.m. Yes, I'm a night owl, so not unusual for me to be still up and awake. A feeling of urgency to step outside and scope out Tabletop Mountain, which is to the south of my property, about 10 to 15 miles. I couldn't stop this urge. It was very strange and important that I gaze at that flat mountain. So I decided to turn off the very bright porch light right out my sliding glass door so I'd be able to see all around, and grab my binoculars. I proceeded to step outside. I slid the glass door open, stepped onto the small concrete pad in front of the door, slid the door closed. Pitch black, stars seemed unusually far off, wind was rushing with a chilly weird feeling to the darkness. And bang! There's that loud noise again above my back now, and up about 20 feet. Very loud and kind of metallic. I'd not even raised the binoculars, but they were around my neck on my chest. This took maybe 5 to 10 seconds at the most. I had wanted to be stealthy so as not to get all 7 dogs going nuts because the lights were out and wake the house. And then it hit me. Fear, like I've never felt before or since, enveloped my entire being. I felt 100%. I felt 150% like I was prey. Visions in my head of darkness so complete and dense I felt dizzy, swaying slightly at the knees. I saw no form or beast of any kind, but knew whatever it was just above me on my roof, glaring down on me, drooling even. I could feel its dark gaze on me, felt its unnatural energy. I heard nothing past the one bang since stepping out, smelled nothing, only heard the absolute batshit wind pick up even more. I immediately flooded my being with bright white light, which has always worked for me in regards to anything menacing/evil, and did this weird about-face twirl so that I was facing the sliding door again. My hand on the handle, and then I was inside and locking the door, then collapsing into my chair. My head was flooded with red and rage, along with this weird high-pitched ringing in my head. I just focused on the white light, expanding it out, trying to encompass my entire house. It took every ounce of my being to focus on doing this, almost to the point of being physical collapse. The banging on the roof and the side of the wall right above the sliding glass door amped up to a level that I was shocked when no one was woken up by the large bangs. I just doubled down and pushed upwards, focusing, expanding the white light until I no longer felt or heard commotion above on the roof. Not one of my dogs made a peep. Not one. They bark at everything. Absolutely crazy. I'm pretty strong spiritually. I believe in Mother Earth and a creator. I also believe you have to believe in your own strength, which will never let you down. I felt drained down to my core, yet strangely exhilarated. This is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It felt alien, ancient, superior, and angry as F. What in the holy hell was this thing? I've never felt or seen anything like it since that night. But be sure that on windy nights I get very jumpy at bumps in my roof. Of course, I told whoever would listen, pretty used to being crazy old grandma, lol, but I never even saw it with my eyes. And just what would I say? Who would I tell that wouldn't write me off as crazy or high? Very frustrating to have knowledge of something potentially dangerous and no clue who to trust to get people aware of such a threat. We even had a video from that night with a camera pointed directly at the area of the house/roof. It was very sketchy, far from being clear. Lots and lots of distortion, very similar to the way distortion from the Predator movies. Oh, very similar to the wavy distortion from the Predator movies. It was a huge black mass, maybe 12 to 15 feet tall, very similar to a bird of prey in movement, and 500 times bigger than a large turkey vulture, and able to project fear/scare tactics into my head. No scatter damage to the roof, slight claw marks, but nothing intense. My partner of 30 years was in the trailer that had the camera command center, and he was watching when I stepped out of the house, but couldn't figure out what I was doing since I turned off the outside lights. He thought I was just being my old weird self, lol. He said he saw weird, scary, black wing-like things flowing down over the roof, reaching towards me, but could not get his phone to work to call me to warn me or see if I was okay after he watched me go back inside. He said he couldn't move or put thoughts together cohesively for about 30 minutes. I tried calling his phone after I'd recovered a little, and it rang and then clicked hollowly and disconnected the call. No way I was going back outside in the dark. Scary, windy desert. Very shortly after this night, the trailer burnt down, taking all video with it. What? Shit. And then to add insult to injury, someone we knew brought COVID to us and we all got sick. My partner passed away after 3 weeks in the hospital. I was sick for 3 solid months. I refused to go to the hospital, and I'm sure that's why I lived. Yeah, no doubt. I still have not come back from it, and now I'm just waiting to see him again. I miss his laugh and companionship tremendously. We've been together for 30 years. Was this thing a harbinger of doom? I think it pissed it off. I would end it if I saw it ever again. How? I don't know. I just know it can be ended. I know there's so much more in our plane of existence that none of us are aware or realize that it's even here. We've been dumbed down to a point of absurdity. And when shit hits the fan, we'll all pay for that betrayal. Most have lost their inner gut feelings and are numb to anything that isn't mainstream or being approved. We're capable of such wondrous and immense things. I just don't know what the recipe is for us to get back on track. That's why what you're doing is so important. Please don't ever stop fighting. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. To all the club members, these things I know to carry the light in the darkness. Always be aware of your surroundings. Don't forget to look up. Love yourself, be kind to everyone, and laugh at least one belly laugh daily. The light of God will always hold you and protect you. You only need to believe. And I am and always will be Jules Carlson. Jules, appreciate your time. I'm sorry and sad for the sad things that have happened. I guess it's all a part of life, right? It's all a part of life, and we all get our turn experiencing it all. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. There's definitely some dark forces at play. Like I said, I think you guys know I bite my lip every time I come on here, because I listen to a lot of other topics that interest me, and the blatant, you know what I'm going to say. Another time. On that note, I don't know why, I did a thing on here on YouTube that made my YouTube videos load onto here and Rumble the exact same time, and all of a sudden they stop loading onto Rumble. It's another thing I gotta get time to go look into and see if I can figure out. Why did that happen? I don't know. What's this one? This is a book. Do I get time to read this? Okay, that's a little too long. We need to get more. I'll definitely read it. And I'm not marking it as read. So, where are we? What do we got? All right, here's another one. This is titled. It's titled Red now. This is titled Second Story. Dad moved us 2 weeks later. Hi, Steve. Thanks again for all you do. This is my second encounter with these creatures. We were still living on Bouf River, where I had my first experience as Bouf River. My dad raised and sold goats. We had 15 head and had built an electric fence around the small barn where we kept them. One evening around dusk, we heard the goats baying and saw them running around the pen like something was chasing them. My dad went out to check on them but saw nothing. About 4 a.m. the next morning, I heard them again doing the same thing. My dad was up and going out to check on them, and I decided to go with him. The electric fence was down on the back side of the pen, and the 7-foot posts were pulled out of the ground. Some were bent. We realized 2 of the kids were gone. Dad looked at the fence and said, "Someone's done this and I'll catch them." 2 nights later, again, the goats started acting up. Dad grabbed a shotgun and started out the door, and I was right behind him. When we got to the fence, he told me to stay by the gate. He went to the back of the fence where it was down before. This portion of the fence was at the tree line. I kept looking in that direction, keeping an eye on his flashlight. That's when I saw 2 large red eyes just inside the tree line. I called out to my dad, and as I did, the eyes blinked out and disappeared. Dad came back to where I was and said the fence is good, and it was probably coyotes. Before daylight, Dad was on his way back out to check on them again. They were making louder sounds than before. He said, "You stay inside." A few minutes later, I heard him shoot, and a few minutes after that, he came back. He was out of breath and shaking. My dad was an Army Ranger, so to see him like this was unusual. I asked what he saw, and he told me to go back to bed. This troubled me, but did what I was told. The next morning, we went out to the open pen, and the whole back side of the barn was torn apart and thrown all over. As I looked where I saw the red eyes, I realized that they had to have been 9 to 10 feet off the ground. Seeing my dad so shook up, I didn't mention that I'd seen them. He never said what he saw that early in the morning, but within the next few weeks, he said he sold all the goats and moved us closer to town. Thank you for giving me and the others a place for letting it all out. I have a few more experiences to share. Stay safe. There you go. Kathleen, send them all in one go. Send them. You get a chance to write in, and you trust me. You want it all in one shot. Okay? Because it can take a long time before I get to another email from you, and if it is if that next email is riding on the coattails of your first one and it's read months later, it might not make sense in a way too, possibly. Now, I don't know if your father's still with us. If he is, you might want to send him this video, or send him whatever video you want from our archives here on the channel. Let him know. Let him know that he's perfectly sane between the ears, and that tens of thousands of other people have seen the same thing he has. Not that might work, might not work. He might have had the reaction that a lot of people have had, where you just want to pretend it didn't happen and make it go away and never talk about it again. You never know. And even if that's the case, who gives a shit? Him being aware that other people are right there with him will possibly bring him some sort of comfort. in this lifetime yet. Whether he talks about it publicly or not, or emails me and wants his name saved or hidden, whatever. You know what I mean? Or maybe he's not with us anymore. I'm sorry to hear that if he isn't. There you go. More members of the club. Joined without asking, as usual. This one's titled, Sasquatch Stole My Kill, I Think. You might have read this. Hey Steve, I love your work. Channels like this have shed much light and provided answers. Many questions for those of us who've had none. My name is Tori, and I feel as if it has become somewhat of a tradition on this channel to inform you that I don't give a shit if you share my name. I also know now why so many people say, I hope this is the right email. Me too. You got her. I will attempt to point as clear a picture as my writing abilities will allow. My experiences come from the Mark Twain National Forest, more specifically in southeastern Dent County, Missouri. Deer Camp is maybe 2 miles down an old logging road, which itself is located off of a small county rock road buried several miles into the Mark Twain National Forest. Deer Camp consists of myself, my friend Derek, his wife, and sometimes our friend Adam. Derek is native to the area, so he is able to scout the area and keep the road clear of debris prior to the opening day whitetail season. I live almost 100 miles by road north of Deer Camp. My first time hunting in the area was in 2019. I just got my new crossbow and was excited to try it out because the laws regarding the use of crossbows have recently changed, maybe just a year or two prior. It was a cloudy day with steady wind and an occasional strong gust. I was given the option to use Derek's tree stand, which I declined. I'm 6'3" and 300 pounds. If the wind is over 5 miles per hour, I'm not going to be in a tree. Say what you will about that, but I'm not a fan of feeling like I'm on a roller coaster while hunting. My chosen spot for the day was approximately 3/4 of a mile off the logging road down a fairly steep incline. I picked what seemed to be a good, sturdy tree, free of widowmakers. It had a few rubs nearby and 2 good shooting lanes. I was still a fair distance from the bottom of the hill, but the spot I chose was at a break in the decline and as level as I could find. I sat facing downhill with my back to the incline. It wasn't long before I began to see wildlife. First some turkey, then some squirrel, and after that a family raccoon passed nearby. I can only assume they were headed back to their shelter to get some rest for the day. It was almost a fairy tale morning. One of those mornings that set an optimistic tone for the hunt. One of those mornings that set an optimistic tone for the hunt. Anyone who has spent a good amount of time in the wilderness knows exactly what type of morning I'm talking about. I was well settled in for the hunt by 7:30 a.m. when a small herd of 4 doe slowly approached the shooting lane on my right at 2 o'clock. I waited patiently as they grazed. We need to fill the freezer that year, so I had already decided that a mature doe was going to be just fine to satisfy my needs for the day. I was just waiting for the perfect shot on the largest lady in the group, hoping a monster buck would come along in the meantime. It was long before I had a great shot at 25 to 30 yards broadside. I couldn't miss. To top it off, the wind had almost completely vanished. I pulled the trigger, and my shot placement was perfect. I saw it hit. Call me crazy, but there's a particular sound a well-placed arrow or a bolt on a whitetail makes, almost like a shot of 50-gallon plastic barrel full of water. I was confident it was a kill shot, and all I had to do was give her time she needed to let go. My doe, along with the other 3, ran off down the hill. Less than a minute later, she slowly walked back into view. I could still hear the others running at full speed in the distance. And at that time, I had the opportunity to see my arrow placement and could tell by her behavior they would not be long before her legs would give out. If it was rifle season, or I was legally able to use my sidearm, I would have just put her out of her misery right then and there. For whatever reason, I decided not to put another arrow by her side. Now I regret not doing so. It wasn't long before she walked behind a thick set of thorn bushes. This is in late September. The thicket was maybe 20 yards in front of me. I heard her drop. I couldn't see her, but I knew exactly where she was. It wasn't long before she let out her last gasp. Not another peep. I gave her about 25 minutes to be sure she was at peace and maybe fill my other tag. Time passed, and I was about to stand up and get to work on her when, in the distance, I could hear what sounded like horses coming back up the hill in my direction. I correctly assumed it was the other group of does. They came rushing past, tails up, and didn't pay me any attention. The woods went completely silent as they ran up the hill behind me, so now I'm getting excited, thinking a large buck is running up at any moment. I should add at this point that the thought of a Sasquatch in Missouri was not in my mind's realm of possibilities. This is when it got weird for me. I heard the loudest buck snort in my life, I thought. Then as it began to get closer, I came to realize that these footsteps were clearly those of a bipedal creature and were loud. Maybe another hunter? No way, not where I was. Now it's coming right to me. The only thing separating us was the thorn bush that stood between my kill and me. It blew 3 more times as it approached and stopped exactly where I believed my doe to be. I now realize that this blow is not from a deer. I'm sitting on the ground against the tree facing directly towards whatever was making this noise, about 25 or 30 yards in front of me. It was letting out an incredibly loud breath or a blow every 10 to 30 seconds for what began to feel like an eternity. So I had no idea what this thing was or what it was up to. I started to think to myself that maybe I hit a lung and my doe had somehow regained consciousness or was making one last attempt after seeing this creature walk up to it. But this blow, snort, or breath, whatever it was, is so incredibly loud that I never fully could convince myself of that. And I honestly know damn well that doe had taken his final breath long ago. Nothing about what was happening made any sense. At this distance, the only thing I can compare this sound to is a semi releasing pressure from its air brakes, but biological in nature as opposed to mechanical. That's pretty intense. That's something else. And now I'm confused. Sidearm in hand, and I can hear a storm moving in. The only thing I knew for sure was that I wasn't going to move. I'm simply trying to stay focused, alert, and ready to react. That's when the realization set in that this ominous noise is probably a warning to stay put. I'm sure that whatever was blowing knew long before it approached that a foreigner was in the area. Attempting to rationalize the situation in my head was becoming nearly impossible. Eventually, it slowly walked to my left, just out of view the entire time, and up the hill behind me, still relentlessly letting out this sound every 10 to 30 seconds. Sometimes a bit more often and sometimes less. I sat and listened to whatever was slowly getting further and further away until I could no longer hear anything other than the storm quickly approaching. At that point, the forest came back alive, with various forms of wildlife rushing to seek shelter from the approaching weather. When I tell you the crows went nuts, I mean ape shit crazy. It was as if every form of life was completely frozen in time throughout the entire ordeal, and then, poof, someone hit the play button. Steve, I've never felt such relief in my life. I'm not sure how to explain the feeling other than the sensation of 1,000 pounds being lifted off my shoulders in an instant. Excuse me. I sat for a couple more minutes trying to work out in my head what the hell just happened. I glanced at my phone and noticed I had caught a bar of cell phone service, so I texted my buddy to come and help me drag this doe out. While waiting for him and still not entirely sure what just happened, a storm hit, and the rainfall was extremely heavy. Now my thoughts went to the blood trail, but I decided that wasn't a big deal since I would not need to do any tracking. I know she had passed and I knew where she was. Eventually he arrived, so I felt comfortable getting up and walking him to my deer. No blood, no doe, no arrow. No sign of my kill anywhere other than the patch of grass flattened where she had laid. We searched the area for 2 hours. She was gone. The rain washed out any blood that would have given us the clues we needed. I told him the story, and I could tell he definitely thought I was just excited and enjoying the experience. He's a lot more familiar with the area than I am, and has spent his entire life hunting in these woods. He's never admitted having a similar experience other than the occasional overwhelming feeling of being watched. Eventually, he convinced me that it was a lung shot, and what I heard was her desperately gasping for air as she slowly made an escape to likely meet her demise elsewhere. Then the storm come in and washed out any chance we had of tracking her. The same idea I hadn't been able to convince myself of. Like I said, I was completely ignorant of the existence of Sasquatch. I eventually settled on the thought that perhaps it may have been a cougar or a very hungry black bear. They are around, but few and far between. Fast forward to rifle season 2020. On morning 2 of the hunt, Derek's wife mentioned she had heard wood knocks and strange noises in the distance throughout the night prior. I had no clue what a wood knock was, so I asked. She explained. Yeah, okay, I thought. Later that night, I heard someone at camp walking around on and off all night, making a lot of noise, and they kept brushing against my damn tent, breathing heavily. I assumed it was Adam at the time. He suffered a pretty bad case of sleep apnea and was also a very heavy breather. I also couldn't hear him snoring in his truck, so it made sense to me. Eventually, after being woken up several times, I put some earplugs in and got some sleep. On evening 3, we were sitting around the fire, and I asked Adam what the hell he had been doing out there all night. Long story short, it wasn't him, and it wasn't Derek or his wife. So again, my mind went straight to a black bear or maybe even a single wild hog. Hogs are quite abundant in the area, but they would normally make a lot of hog noises and travel in large groups. Looking back, if we were either of those, we would have known the next morning for sure, as no real effort was made to secure our food. I brushed it off and we went on. Nothing else happened that rifle season other than feeling very uncomfortable when walking back to camp one night. It was within the next year, early 2021, that I stumbled across your videos and a few other channels and was drawn to the content. A little brother passed away in September that year at just 23 years old, which messed me up pretty good. I'm so sorry to hear that. Needless to say, that was the first year I had not hunted since 2003. Derek's wife and my wife are very good friends, and that's how I came to know them. They had moved from town to a property that bordered the Mark Twain National Forest. My wife was talking to her on the speakerphone one evening on the front porch, and Derek's wife mentioned that she believed she had a sighting on her property, along with a bunch of other weird stuff happening, like drones flying around in the middle of the night and strangers randomly showing up. Anyhow, that's the moment the light bulb went on and I started to connect all the dots. Slowly but surely, things started making sense, or at least I had a solid theory. During rifle season 2022, this past deer season, Derek left camp for a long walking hunt. His wife and I were at camp discussing Sasquatch. The topic was brought up because that morning she kept seeing what she could only describe as a large, dark figure in the distance move from tree to tree so fast it was like a blur. I hadn't seen it, but now that my mind was open to the idea of Sasquatch, I was keeping a close eye out. I mentioned to her that I had sent in an encounter to a smaller, less-known channel, which I won't bother to name. I'm familiar with your policy on that. At the time I sent the story to them, I was still connecting the dots, downplaying some things. I'm not sure why. I just wasn't fully convinced yet, and I didn't want to sound crazy, I suppose. I guess it was before I stopped giving a shit about what people think. Anyhow, she was watching the video while I spotted the dark figure she had been seeing from probably 250 yards out. I let her know that I thought I saw it. Now we're both looking. Sure enough, it zipped from one tree to another in less than 1 second. These trees had to be 40 yards apart. Holy shit. Without saying a word, we both turned to each other to verify that the other had seen it as well. It put on a show every now and then for the next 30 minutes. I could never make out what this blob was. The only thing that would have made sense would have been a bird flying from one tree to the next. Nope. It was too big and grounded at the bottom. It didn't feel, it didn't feel the least bit threatening. If anything, it sensed it was being playful. But we were there for a reason. And should have been in the woods already. It was well past daybreak. I decided I was going to go sit in the exact area where my mother went missing 3 years prior. What? Let me read that again. I decided I was going to sit in the exact area where my mother went missing 3 years prior. It was about a mile up the logging road, so I decided to drive up there and begin my descent to that damn tree, partly because I knew it was an area traveled by deer, and more so to seek answers. Derek's wife caught a ride. She was going to hunt on the other side of the road. We drove up there and parked. We heard something trampling behind us, so we had to wait in the vehicle for the sake of not scaring what may have been a deer. We sat completely silent for 5 minutes. Bang! Something hit the SUV. Something struck it hard. For a minute, I thought it may have been a stray bullet. Holy shit. But it must have been a small rock or pebble at high velocity. I cannot find what it was or where it hit, but it hit with force. No trees above, no wind. Yet again, something I could not explain was just strange. While walking down to my spot, I traveled through a large area that was filled with nothing but arches and X's. Just like the ones those weirdos on TV get excited about. And that's it. That's the end of my story for now. Rather anticlimactic. Perhaps next year I'll write back for the answers. I think all that any of us want is answers. I don't know what exactly happened the day my doe went missing. I've searched the internet for far and wide to find out what creature in Missouri would even be capable of making such an incredibly powerful sound. If it was a thieving Sasquatch, he didn't scare me off. I'll be back year after year. I'd rather not encounter a being capable of creating such a powerful noise, but I'm not going to cower down and find a new area. They know I come anyway. What's that? Dog? Sorry. That means I may come face to face with whatever was in the woods with me that day. Did I have a Sasquatch encounter? I can't say that I did, but I sure as hell can't say that I didn't. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story, Steve. I hope it's legible. If not, I apologize. Keep fighting the good fight. Perhaps one day we will be let in on this heavily guarded secret. Best wishes to you and your family, Tori. Holy shit, Tori! That would have scared the shit out of anybody. You know, when I've said it before too, when people write in about sounds they hear, noises they hear, without seeing something, but they write in anyways, everybody's got to understand the impact of that noise. So you got to try to, if you're going to try to visualize from the writer's eyes and ears, you got to think about it. What would motivate you to write in just about a sound you heard? It would have to be a very significant sound, right? Like I think I've said in the past, a lot of the people that write in trying to describe what they hear and how overwhelming it was, I think that might be one of the more challenging topics to try to paint a clear picture for the listeners, is describing a sound, right? But I'm picking it up. I'm picking up for me. I'm picking it up because I realize that for a sound to have that much of an impact on a human being, enough that they remember every tenth of a second of that experience, and they feel compelled to write in to share it to us, it's going to be one hell of a sound, right? One hell of a sound. So I'm just telling you, man, I'm picking up what you're putting down, all right? I get it. You put me there. And your friend Derek's wife, or Derek, or anybody else that hunts around there, anybody in the neighborhood, whatever, you might want to send them this video. Send them this video, unless, by the sounds of it, they might already be here watching anyway. And no, I don't need subscribers. I don't need somebody to come here and subscribe. I don't give a flying shit if you subscribe or not. But I do give a shit about people out there that think they might be alone, and that somebody here might know of them. So, send them a video from another channel. I don't give a shit. Just make sure you send them something that lets them know that they're not alone. that there's frickin' tens of thousands of people having all this shit slapped in their face without asking for it. And they are seeing what they are seeing. They are hearing what they're hearing. All right? There's nothing to be ashamed of or scared to share. So there. There's my battle. You can't, unless you've got some kind of alternate motive. That's why I don't share channels. Some people think, how can we share people's channels, man? You know what? I don't have a clue who they are. I don't know anything about who they are. I know nothing about what they're trying to peddle. I know nothing about their channel. I don't know if they're just trying to sensationalize something and get subscribers, man. I just want to get subscribers and followers. Those people, I got zero time for. But I don't have the time to investigate them either. I don't have time to share all of the honest people's voices that are coming here to be heard. That's my priority, right? So that's why I don't share channels when I read them in an email or mention names, because it just might be somebody who has been avidly trying to shut us up, right? That's a big, strong possibility as well. There's a lot of people out there that feel that I've offended them. I mean, meanwhile, I'm just the messenger of truth and common sense. And if you don't got any, well, that's on you. Right? That's on you. If I offend you in any way, there's no apologies coming from me. Suck it up, princess, and move forward with your knowledge and quit being an idiot. There you go. Now, I've shared a handful of voices. I never feel like I share enough voices when I'm sitting here. I usually feel like I talk too much. So I'll shut my mouth. I got to carry on, and I have to do more today on here that has a lot to do with sharing with all of you. All right, so just because I shut the camera off doesn't mean I'm still digging, still going at it. Today is a very busy day, and I am going to attempt to get something together that you all want to hear. That's what I'm doing. So share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get heard word for word. No matter what, you're safe. You want your name withheld, it gets withheld. Sarah's shipping her goodies today to people who have ordered. I believe her sale is still ongoing. Link to that in the description below. What else? All the people who are interested in helping me with my app platform, you will all be contacted. It's just take a little bit of time. My pile is stacked, but every single one of you will be replied to, all right? It's just going to take a little bit of time yet, okay? There you go. That's what I got to say today. Be safe, be kind. Just be safe and be kind. Be brave and never quit. And always fight back, all right? If you can't fight back, get somebody that will.